Hello everyone, it's your friend, your boy, Jet Black the one and only, here with another exciting video, and in this video I'm going to be reading the DC Universe Encyclopedia entry for Hawkman. I actually have already tried to do this video in the past, but I had a recording error that prevented me from releasing this video. So I actually have read a good bit of this article before, so this isn't going to be my first time reading over it, but I still want to read it for you guys so that you guys can learn more about Hawkman. I will admit, Hawkman has a pretty confusing and far-out history, so I definitely would recommend paying close attention to the many details included, because Hawkman is a wild ride of a character. Also, this is a reading and commentary, so as I read through it, I will also be commenting on it. Occasionally, I'm going to have to skip ads that will appear in the music, so I will, on occasion, stop reading in order to do that. But without further ado, let's hop right in. Hawkman. No DC superhero has lived as many lives as Hawkman, yet through each of them he has sought justice for humanity and happiness for his beloved Hawkgirl. Aliases. Prince Khufu, Carter Hall. Carter Hall but spelled in an alien way with a K. Onder, and the Winged Warrior. The first appearance of Carter Hall was in Flash Comics #1 in 1939. The first appearance of Carter Hall spelled with a K is The Brave and the Bold #34, 1961. Since the days of World War II, there has always been an imposing figure with majestic wings, a striking bird-shaped helmet, and brandishing ancient weaponry standing alongside Earth's greatest heroes in its time of need. A fierce warrior without equal. In different eras, this hero, known as Hawkman, has been a human being trapped in an ancient Egyptian curse of endless death and rebirth, and at other times he's been an alien police officer sent to Earth to help defend it. Sometimes he's even been a combination of both. Almost always at the side of his paramour, the warrior woman called Hawkgirl. Hawkman has defended our world from alien invaders and mystical threats alike. First as a member of the Justice Society of America, where he fought against the Axis powers, and later as a member of the Justice League, where he earned the respect of Earth's greatest heroes like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Checking to see if there's an ad I have to skip. There is an ad I have to skip. There we go. Although there are very few characters with a history as strange and as complex as Hawkman's is, whether he's Carter Hall or Carter Hall spelled with a K, beneath the mask, Hawkman is one of DC Universe's greatest heroic icons. Origin. Golden Age. The original Hawkman story actually begins in the days of ancient Egypt, when he was known as Prince Khufu. For years, his bitter rival was the priest Hath-Set. One day, Hath-Set got the upper hand and captured both Khufu and his lover, Shayera, and murdered them both using a cursed dagger made of an alien substance called nth metal, later revealed to be from the planet Thanagar. This nth metal, which killed them, began a cycle of endless reincarnation for all three individuals. Eventually, in the early 20th century, Khufu is reincarnated as an American archaeologist, Carter Hall, and Shayera as Shayera Saunders. Hath-Set was reborn as scientist Anton Hastra. When Carter Hall discovered the nth metal dagger used to kill him in his previous existence, he touches it and instantly recalls all of his former lives. Hastor, reliving his past as Hath-Set, then kidnapped Shayera, hoping to murder the pair all over again. Hall, now equipped with lost knowledge, creates a gravity-defying belt using nth metal and a pair of wings to help him maneuver himself in the air, and becomes the superhero known as Hawkman. Carter rescues Shayera, and Carter and Saunders become a romantic couple. She soon becomes his partner in fighting crime, calling herself Hawkgirl. Hawkman becomes a charter member of the Justice Society of America, and later the wartime All-Star Squadron. Eventually, Hawkman even became the team chairman. But as the war ended and the 1940s became the 1950s, the Justice Society of America disbanded, and Hawkman and Hawkgirl retired from heroics for a time. They married and had a son named Hector, who would grow up to become the hero called Silver Scarab, and later Dr. Fate. The adventures of the Golden Age Hawkman and Hawkgirl originally took place on the world designated Earth 2 within the multiverse, but on its counterpart, Earth 1, a new and different Hawkman would soon emerge. The Silver Age. On the distant world of Thanagar, police officer Carter Hull, spelled with a K, was one of the homeworld's most respected and decorated officers. On this planet, the police wore anti-gravity belts and their wings, very similar to what Carter Hull used on Earth 2. That's Carter Hull, spelled with a C. These were inventions of Carter Hull's father, spelled with a K, Perrin Cotter. Carter Hull's wife, Shayera, was also a police officer as well as Carter's partner. Gonna see, okay. No advertisement, that's good. Let's see. Eventually, the two were sent to Earth to apprehend the man called Bythe, who was a criminal shapeshifter. Once he was captured, the two heroes decided to stay behind on Earth in an effort to learn human police methods. On Earth, they took on the human aliases of Carter and Shayera Hull, and became the superheroes Hawkman and Hawkgirl. As part of their new identities, Carter and Shayera became museum curators in Midway City. Hawkman soon joined the newly formed Justice League of America. Although he and his wife both had advanced alien technology at their disposal, the Hawks also liked using the ancient weaponry found in their museum during battle. Hawkman and Hawkgirl, later Hawkwoman, were among Earth's most respected superheroes for years. As a member of the League, Hawkman became close friends with the Atom, although he often got into heated ideological arguments with his teammate Green Arrow. When the JLA and the JSA crossed dimensions, he was able to meet his Earth 2 doppelganger, also named Carter Hull, but spelled with a C. Bronze Age. Eventually, Hawkman discovered that his people, the Thanagarians, were involved in a war against the planet Ron, home of fellow hero Adam Strange. Because he opposed this war and publicly sided against his own planet, he and Shayera were subsequently exiled, and the planet that was supposed to be his temporary home became his permanent one. It was during this time that Shayera changed her name from Hawkgirl to Hawkwoman, and joined her husband as a member of the Justice League. Sometime later, Hawkman discovered that the Thanagarians were plotting a stealth takeover of Earth, and fought them in what he referred to as his Shadow War. Eventually, Thanagar gave up their plans to dominate Earth thanks to Hawkman's interference. Real quick, I just want to say that after this point, it gets confusing. I would say that everything else so far is like really simple to understand, but as soon as you get into post-crisis Hawkman is when things kind of get off the wall weird. So if you need to, feel free to go back and like re-listen to the Golden Age, Silver Age, and Bronze Age explanations, because post-crisis is about to take all those things and make them like really weird. After the events of 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths, the multiverse was reshaped as one universe. The histories of Earth 1 and Earth 2 were merged. The Golden Age Hawkman, Carter Hull, spelled with a C, now served on both the Justice Society and later the Justice League, providing a connective tissue between both teams. Give me one moment to skip an ad. Here we go. After the crisis, Carter and his JSA compatriots disappeared into another dimension in order to prevent Ragnarok from taking place on Earth. A Hawkman named Fel Onder would take his place briefly in the Justice League International, pretending to be Carter, but he was eventually exposed as an imposter and Thanagarian spy. But not long after, a new version of Carter Hull, spelled with a K, would come to Earth and become the new Hawkman. That first paragraph actually isn't as confusing as I thought it was. The first time I read that, I misunderstood the merging of Earth 1 and Earth 2, and I thought that Carter Hull spelled with a C and Carter Hull spelled with a K had merged into one being. But instead what happened in post-crisis is that Carter Hull spelled with a C just was on the Justice League and the Justice Society of America. That makes way more sense than how I originally interpreted that paragraph. I originally thought it was a lot crazier. So, the first paragraph of Post-Crisis, not confusing. There are two Hawkmen Three if you count the imposter. One is Carter Hall. He's been Hawkman the longest. He's the Earth Hawkman. He was a member of the JSA and then later the JLA. And now we have Carter Hall. Carter Hall being a Thanagarian Hawkman who just now came to Earth. Not weird. Not weird at all. The post-crisis Carter Hall, spelled with a K, was a young Thanagarian police officer, the child of a wealthy family whose patriarch, Perrin Carter, was the inventor of the Hawkwings. Thanagar was now a conquering world, one which subjugated other planets and strip-mined them of their resources so that the natives could live in luxury. Carter hated what his world had become, and would lose himself in the past by studying his planet's history. During this time, a disillusioned Hall became a drug addict and was manipulated by corrupt police captain Bythe into killing his own father and was sent into exile. The first time I read that, I reacted really hard to when I learned that he was a drug addict. Comic books aren't normally known for having drug addict characters. I know this is like entering like the early 90s era. Things start getting a little bit edgier during this time in comics, but I was still very thrown to hear that he was a drug addict, especially since he's like an alien character, because I don't really know of a lot of alien characters that deal with drug addiction. The closest I can think of being Martian Manhunter being addicted to Oreos, which is fairly innocent. But anyways, he has a pretty brutal backstory compared to his pre-crisis counterpart. Let's see, I'm going to have to skip an ad. Give me one moment. Let's continue, shall we? After recovering from his addiction, he returned from his exile and was reinstated into the police force, but sent to the planet's dangerous downside, where crime was rampant. He was eventually able to expose Bythe as the man who engineered his father's death and cleared his name. Now partnered with a woman named Shayera Thal, both Carter and Shayera were sent to Earth as goodwill ambassadors, where they became the new Hawkman and Hawkwoman. When the original Hawkman, Carter Hall spelled with a C, returned from his other dimensional exile to stop the coming Ragnarok, he met his namesake and revealed that he actually knew his father, Perrin Carter, who had journeyed to Earth during World War II. It was Carter's Hawkman persona which inspired Perrin to invent what would become the Thanagarian police force. Carter, spelled with a C, also revealed that Perrin had met a Cherokee shaman named Naomi, who he fell in love with, and the two married with Carter and Shayera as witnesses. She gave birth to Carter, spelled with a K, thus making him a human Thanagarian hybrid. Okay, so before we read that last paragraph, because that last paragraph gets kind of weird, essentially to try and explain post-crisis in a very succinct way, because there's a lot of information to take in. There are three Hawkmen. You have Carter Hall, who was a Hawkman back in the day, and he's still Hawkman. You have Carter Hall, and he was Hawkman during the JSA. Then after the JSA disbanded, he was a Hawkman during the JLA, the Justice League of America, when that team formed after the JSA disbanded. Then he went to an alternate dimension to stop Ragnarok, the end of the world, from taking place. And while he was in that alternate dimension, he was replaced by Fel Ondar, who was a Thanagarian spy who was impersonating Carter Hall in order to get close to the Justice League, but he was eventually found out. Then Carter Hall, spelled with a K, a Thanagarian Hawkman, came to Earth and became his protector. The reason why Carter Hall's name is so similar to Carter Hall is because his father actually met Carter Hall during World War II, and they were good friends. So obviously he was named after Carter Hall with a C. And also this Thanagarian Hawkman is different from pre-crisis Thanagarian Hawkman due to his more tragic backstory, but also due to the fact that he is half human, half Thanagarian. Now, let's get into this last paragraph of post-crisis Hawkman, because this one is a little weird. During the crisis in time known as Zero Hour, Carter Hall and Cotter Hall, along with Shayera, merged into one mystical being called the Hawk God Avatar. Although the Hawk God fought injustice for a time, the voices in his head of the different people he was comprised of ultimately drove him insane. The Carter Hall aspect of him would eventually break free into a new and younger body, thereby rendering the Cotter Hall, spelled with a K aspect of him, dead. This new, younger Carter Hall, however, would retain some of Cottar's with a K memories, and his physical body looked more like Cotter Hall with a K. He rejoined the newly reformed Justice Society of America. Shayera was reborn too, as Kendra Saunders, but unlike Carter, she had no memory of their past lives together. They became crime-fighting partners in St. Roch, Louisiana, but Kendra resisted becoming romantically entangled with Hawkman. Now, the concept of them merging together into the Hawk God Avatar, to me is really crazy. But it's even crazier that they then break apart, and then he becomes Carter Hall again, but if anything, he's more physically like Cotter Hall with a K, and then Shayera splits off and she becomes Kendra Saunders, but she doesn't remember Hawkman, so they're like superhero partners, but they're not romantic partners. I feel like that's like an interesting dynamic between the two. And they used a similar dynamic to this when they were portrayed in live action on the CW. I had something else that I wanted to say. I am confused when they talk about Shayera, because there are two Shayeras after that, it sounds like. Well, technically one Shayera, because it's not specific on how many Shayeras fuse together. Like, it sounded like Kottar, spelled with a K, came to Earth by himself. I might be wrong, but I don't think Shayera went with him to Earth. Let me see. Now partnered with a woman named Shayera Thal, both Kottar with a K and Shayera were sent to Earth as goodwill ambassadors. Wait. Hold on, was there no Earth Hawk woman in this one? There may not have been... Because I was like, they only mentioned one Shayera. I think there only is one Shayera post-Crisis. So post-Crisis, there's no Earth Hawk woman. There is only Alien Hawk woman. Well, Hawk Girl. So when they fused, they didn't have to fuse two guys and two girls together. They just fused two guys and one girl together into the Hawk God Avatar. So that's kind of wild. I didn't notice that the first time I read through this, that there was only one female like Hawk character post-Crisis. That's kind of different. It's another thing to have to remember if you're like trying to get your history of Hawkman straight. It's honestly really weird that post-Crisis erases Earth Hawk Girl completely. She just isn't a part of any of it. But that is different. Now let's get into post-Infinite Crisis. I remember post-Infinite Crisis was actually not that crazy. Compared to post-Crisis, nothing really happens, but I'll go over it. In the events leading up to the cosmic upheaval known as 2006's Infinite Crisis, Carter Hall becomes the chairman of the JSA for a time, but poor judgment leads to several people being killed during his leadership. He leaves Earth to contemplate his mistakes and allows Hawkgirl to become Earth's resident winged warrior. He eventually returns to Earth, where he and Kendra team up again as Hawkman and Hawkgirl. But the reunion is short-lived, as the Black Lantern versions of Elongated Man and his wife Sue murder the Hawks in cold blood at the dawn of the Blackest Night, thus transforming their corpses into new members of the Black Lantern Corps. Luckily, during the final battle of Blackest Night, Hawkman and Hawkgirl are both resurrected by the power of the white light of life. Kendra is now reborn as Shayera Hall, and now remembers all of her past lives, and she and Carter finally truly reunite as a couple. But yet another cosmic upheaval in the multiverse would soon change the lives of the Hawks all over again. Okay, I was wrong. I thought during post-Infinite Crisis not much of anything happened. Because I was like, oh cool, they die, they come back, she gets her memories back, they're in a romantic relationship again, everything's fine. Except, everything's not fine because post-Infinite Crisis is like ignoring the fact that there was no Earth Hawk Girl anymore. They got rid of that. So this is like blowing my mind in that regard. So remember how when I was talking about post-crisis, I was surprised that there was no Earth Hawk Girl? They don't mention an Earth Hawk Girl at all in this. And when they're merging like all the Hawk beings together into the Hawk God avatar, they never bring up like Earth Shayera. So the Shayera that was a part of the Hawk God avatar is from Thanagar. She's like an alien. She's not like a reincarnation of like Hawk Girl. Because that's not even like a thing in this, is it? I don't know, because they don't really say anything in post-crisis about her. So it's really weird. So it's like the alien Shayera became Kendra Saunders, which, as far as I was aware, had nothing to do with like Earth Hawk Girl. But then once she comes back to life, she's like, oh, I remember everything from when I was Earth Hawk Girl. But she shouldn't have any Earth Hawk Girl memories if there wasn't an Earth Hawk Girl post-crisis. So either one of two things is going on. Either there was an Earth Hawk Girl post-crisis. Well, I guess there are three different possibilities. Either there was an Earth Hawk Girl of post-crisis, and maybe she was fused as a part of the Hawk God avatar, but they just don't mention her in the like article. Two, there wasn't an Earth like Hawk Girl, and it's just like a weird continuity error. Or three, there is there was an Earth Hawk Girl, but when she reincarnated as Thanagarian Hawk Girl Shayera, which is why there was only one Hawk Girl in post-crisis, because that was her, and she reincarnated as her. But I don't know. It's very weird. That actually is probably one of the more confusing parts so far from like reading this. But I don't know if that's like a fault of the article or if it's actually like a continuity thing. Anyways, the New 52. And the New 52 Hawkman is my favorite Hawkman. Out of all these I've read, the New 52 one actually sounds the most interesting, and if I was going to read any of them, I would read the New 52 one. I actually think the Rebirth one is worse, but we'll get into that. After the events of 2011's Flashpoint, reality was altered and a new Hawkman would appear on Earth. This one was a new version of Cotter Hall, spelled with a K, of Thanagar. Although at first, this savage Hawkman seemed to have no memory of being an alien, he soon discovered that he was really a member of the Thanagarian race, who in this reality had natural wings. He was a popular gladiator who became the adopted son of King Thal Provis, as well as the consort of the king's daughter, Princess Shayera Thal. Cotter was unique among his people as he was a pacifist and used his sway with the king to have him hold a peace conference with their enemies. However, their enemies saw the peace conference as an opportunity to strike and used it to kill King Provis. The new ruler, son of Provis and Cotter's adoptive brother, Corsar, believed that only the powerful nth metal could save them from their enemies. But this actually ended up killing hundreds of Thanagarians. Cotter was accidentally fused with it, creating a full body armor and regenerating his wings. But seeing that his adoptive brother was becoming a madman and refusing to see the danger in nth metal, Cotter refused to let the metal power be distributed. This led to a battle between himself and his adopted brother, which led to the death of Corsair. Shayera makes a vow to hunt down Qatar, as she also sees him as responsible for her father's death. He runs away in a stolen ship that ends up crashing on Earth, where he seemingly loses his memory. When his ship was found by the Coast Guard, they asked him for his name, and he said Cotter Hall with a K, before going unconscious. They misunderstood him, believing that he said his name was Carter Hall with a C. The US government then gave papers and a new identity to Carter Hall, and he went on to college to study archaeology, and he becomes an archaeologist in due time. He ends up joining the government-sanctioned Justice League of America for a brief stint. Eventually, he returns to his homeworld Thanagar, which he saves from the alien despot Despero, but he himself dies heroically doing so. The reasons why I like this run. Let me check to see if there's an ad. There is an ad. I'm going to wait for it to end, and then I'll hop in. Okay. So the reasons why I like this run. Number one, pacifist Hawkman. I think it's a really interesting concept to have a character who has all these incredible and could definitely like beat somebody down in a fight, but he doesn't because he would rather like talk things out diplomatically. I actually really like characters who like to try and use their wit and to just talk things out before they actually go into a big battle. So points go to New 52 Hawkman for actually wanting to discuss things first before throwing hands. Secondly, fusing with nth metal in order to have like a full body armor and to gain the ability to regenerate your wings is pretty awesome, not gonna lie. There's literally no other Hawkman in this list that does that. It's like a very unique thing to him, and I think it's just a really cool power in general. Not to mention, nth metal is one of the most powerful metals in the DC multiverse. And it's not like he's like the first Hawkman to have nth metal, but he's kind of the first Hawkman to like be nth metal, to where it's like bonded to him physically. I think that's really cool. It almost gives me like Wolverine vibes in a way. Really solid idea. I like how they blended together Carter Hall with a K and Carter Hall with a C into like one character. Instead of making them fuse or making it where there's two of them or making it where he's like a half-breed or something, having him lose his memory and then live the life of Carter Hall with a C, but having him originally have been Carter Hall with a K just works. It allows you to have your cake and eat it too, and I kind of vibe with that. To me, it makes more sense than trying to fuse them together and doing a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. I love the concept of the wings being natural. I watched like the Justice League animated series when I was younger, and I never thought of the idea of Hawkman's wings not being real. Similar to how Spider-Man was portrayed in the Tobey Maguire movies as having like natural web fluid. So until you learn that Spider-Man had web shooters, you just kind of assumed one of Spider-Man's powers was that he was able to shoot webs out. And I feel like most people who didn't know much about Hawkman just assumed that he had natural wings. So by giving him natural wings, it makes the character easier to immediately understand by looking at him. You know what I mean? You don't look at him and assume that his wings are unnatural, so why make them unnatural? I think that makes sense. That's just like a good idea. I also like the idea of Shayera and him being enemies, because they've played with his relationship to Shayera before. They've made it where like they're not romantically interested in each other, but they're like crime-fighting partners. They've made it where they are romantically interested in each other and they're crime-fighting partners. But this is the first time Shayera's just been the bad guy, where Shayera's like, I'm gonna hunt you down and I'm gonna kill you. She's like an antagonist. I think that is a really cool idea. Yeah. But yeah, that's enough of me bragging on the New 52 Hawkman. It's like the only version of Hawkman I think I'd be interested in reading. I'll say that. It seems like the one that was just the best one. Now for the Rebirth Hawkman, and I'll explain why I feel like the Rebirth Hawkman is like worse. Due to the events of 2016's DC Universe Rebirth Special Number 1, the history of Earth was altered yet again. The original Hawkman, Carter Hall, spelled with a C, returned once more. He was once again an archaeologist who was trying to figure out the secret behind the mysterious nth metal. He was always trying to unlock the mystery of his eternal loop of endless reincarnation, and he began to have nightmares of what later turned out to be the Dark Multiverse. Carter learns that his reincarnations have been not only across time but also space, and in one of these incarnations he was Carter Hall of Thanagar with a K. Since he would have technically coexisted alongside the post-Flashpoint Carter Hall with a K, it is unknown if he was wiped from existence or is somehow a part of Carter. And I think that's weird. Just saying, like, because we could have just kept what we had in the New 52, which I think was easier to understand. But I do see how it's like a big change from like Hawkman's history. So they're like, we're bringing back Hawkman's history in a way, but Hawkman's history is like the most confusing part about him. And I kind of wish they just would have stuck with the New 52 Hawkman. And it is weird because now we don't know if there are two Carter Halls or if there's just one Carter Hall, like with a K. It reintroduced the confusion that was taken away with the New 52. The New 52 version, I think, is like the easiest Hawkman to understand. I mean, the Golden Age Hawkman is pretty easy to understand. The Silver Age Hawkman is pretty easy to understand. The Bronze Age Hawkman is pretty easy to understand. So maybe he's not the simplest to understand, but I guess he's the simplest to try and combine all these like elements of different Hawkmen into one character and make it just kind of work. So I'm fine with the New 52 one. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Powers and abilities. Due to Carter Hall, with a C's, discovery of nth metal, he was able to fashion a belt and boots that allowed him to defy gravity. And the nth metal enhancement also gave him superior strength, durability, vision, and accelerated healing. Hall made a pair of artificial feathered wings laced with nth metal that allowed him to control his flight and navigation. With these wings, he has achieved an airspeed of 225 miles per hour. It's interesting that they gave him like a very specific speed, so now you can compare him to other characters speed-wise. That's kind of nice. They like set him up with like a feat. The nth metal knife, which was used to kill Hawkman in his original Egyptian life as Khufu, resulted in a kind of ongoing curse on his soul, which allowed him to reincarnate endlessly through the ages. Because of his many lives, Hawkman is an expert in many different fighting styles, as well as a master of archaic weaponry, which is why he often carries a mace. Also, due to so many lives, he is a genius-level tactician and a truly fierce warrior. Although he has the same nth metal enhancements as Carter Hall with a C, the Thanagarian Hawkman Carter Hall with a K have certain extra abilities which are unique to his alien species. A Thanagarian's lifespan is far greater than that of an Earth human being, and they also have enhanced strength and greater durability than regular humans, greater vision, and other enhanced senses. The Thanagarian Hawkman also has access to advanced alien technology that Carter Hall with a C version of Hawkman did not have. Let's see. So one thing that I really want to point out is that the alien Hawkman sounds infinitely stronger than the human Hawkman, because they mention that the nth metal gives the human Hawkman superior strength, durability, vision, and accelerated healing. He gets all of that from the nth metal. Alien Hawkman, they're like, has all the same power boost. He gets the same boost to strength, to speed, to durability, well, not to speed, sorry. He gets the same boost to strength, to durability, vision, and accelerated healing. He has all those boosts, but he also naturally, as a Thanagarian, has all of those boosts. So that means his boost is like, because it's like saying naturally he's already like better than humans. And Carter Hall gets that like same boost from getting the nth metal like equipment. But then they're like, alien Carter Hall with a K gets that same boost like again from him having the nth metal. So he already was here and now he's like here. So he's like 2 steps above like a normal person, where a human Carter Hall is only 1 step above a normal person. I think that's really interesting to think about. Also, I want to talk a little bit about cosmic metallurgy. So the Batman Who Laughs created these cards out of nth metal that essentially allow you to manipulate reality. And he essentially used metallurgy in order to do it. Now, Hawkman, Carter Hall Hawkman specifically, spelled with a C, he had access to nth metal, and he was able to like forge it into like wings and like a belt and stuff like that that gave him special powers and abilities. I'm curious if Carter Hall also is just skilled with cosmic metallurgy. Because if he can do cosmic metallurgy in the same way that the Batman Who Laughs can do cosmic metallurgy, and if cosmic metallurgy allows you to shape nth metal into cards that essentially allow you to manipulate reality, then wouldn't that mean that Hawkman would have not only the ability to create said cards, but the resources to do so, considering that he already has nth metal? Just food for thought. Potentially, Hawkman could just be a reality manipulator, it sounds like. Essential storylines and history. And real quick, let me make sure that I'm recording, because last time when I tried to do a recording of Hawkman, it messed up, so I just wanted to make sure that it didn't mess up. The origin of Hawkman, Flash Comics #1, 1940. In this first appearance of the character, we are introduced to archaeology buff Carter Hall, who receives an ancient Egyptian dagger made from a mysterious substance called nth metal. When Carter touches it, he suddenly remembers being the Egyptian prince Khufu in a previous life, and now he and his paramour, Shayera, were murdered. And how he and his paramour, Shayera, were murdered by his enemy Halfset. Remembering all of his previous life, he fashions an anti-gravity belt and boots from the metal as well as wings, and begins a heroic career as Hawkman. One thing that I realized multiple things just now. For one, his whole like past lives and memory stuff and his connection to like ancient Egypt, that's kind of giving me Assassin's Creed vibes. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Origins, and it's like a similar thing. You know, you got these memories of like a past life, of like being like an Egyptian badass. Another thing that I realized, why is it that he makes like hawk-based things? He remembers he was Prince Khufu, right? And he goes, oh, I should become Hawkman, I should use the nth metal to make all this hawk stuff. I can't remember if that was explained earlier in his origin. But why is it that he decides he needs to be a hawk person? Specifically, like why is it that he isn't just a guy who reincarnates? Why is it that he's like, and I took the nth metal, and I'm like, hawk stuff. Let me be Hawkman. So real quick, let me look back. I don't remember why he's a hawk guy. Okay? I'm like reading through it again. Right, yeah, okay. He touches the dagger, he gets his memories. Now equipped with lost knowledge, he creates all this stuff. Yeah, it doesn't really say why he's a hawk person. I kind of think that's funny, because you know how I mentioned before that, like, you know, if he can do cosmic metallurgy, he could potentially make dark metal cards that let him manipulate reality. Well, that would be really cool if he did that, you know what I mean? But instead, he suddenly remembered this lost knowledge, I guess, about nth metal, and his lost knowledge made him go, you know, I could make like hawk wings, I could like fly. That'd be cool. He doesn't go the Batman Who Laughs route where it's like, I could be a reality manipulator, because the hawk thing's just arbitrary. It sounds like he just picks that. He's like, that's what I'm gonna go with, I guess. I'm Hawkman. Like, his theming isn't based on anything other than him just deciding, well, hawks are cool, I guess. That's weird. Creature of a Thousand Shapes, The Brave and the Bold, number 34, 1961. 2 decades after the original Hawkman was introduced, a new version came on the scene. Decked in a very similar costume to the original, this Hawkman was the alien police officer Carter Hall, spelled with a K. In his first Silver Age story, we see Hawkman and his wife come to Earth to capture the criminal shapeshifter named Bythe. Deciding to stay on Earth to study human police methods, he and his wife Shayera becoming Earth's latest alien crime fighters. Okay. Another thing that I'm thinking about, now that we're talking about like the hawk motif being weird and not really explained, do aliens know about Earth hawks? Like, is Hawkman a motif that he gives to himself, like the alien one? Does he go, I'm Hawkman? Or is Hawkman like what the people of Earth call him? And I assume that Thanagar has birds, and that he based his appearance on some kind of Thanagarian bird, right? They have like wing technology on Thanagar, and that's how they do all their stuff. But why isn't he named after some kind of Thanagarian bird? Or just use his normal name? Because does he have a secret identity? I think he does have a secret identity. I remember that. I think he does. I keep finding myself having to go back to his origin thing, because I'm like, did he have a secret identity? I thought he had a secret identity. He does, yeah, he starts like a museum and everything. Cool. Well, he's a curator at a museum. I'm not sure if he starts a museum. But yeah, he did have a secret identity. I do remember that. But it is weird that he's Hawkman. And that he's not like the warrior of Thanagar or something. I don't know. He really could have been anything. Winged warrior also would have been cool. But whatever. Fighting a secret battle. The Shadow War of Hawkman, number 1, 1985. In the limited series, The Shadow War of Hawkman, Carter Hall, spelled with a K, and his wife Shayera discover a secret plot by a Thanagarian Fel Ondar, who was attempting a stealth invasion of Earth using a piece of Thanagarian technology called the Absorpsicon, which would take over the minds of Earth's most powerful people in an effort to slowly begin a Thanagarian takeover of the Earth. The Absorpsicon is something that I remember. I read that word, and I was like, I've read this word before, but I don't know where I read it. When I originally did this video, I didn't get this far. I didn't get to the storyline part because the recording stopped. So I know it's not like I just read it earlier today and I remember it. I feel like the Absorpsicon was important. I feel like that's something that I read about before and got really interested in the past, and I just don't remember why. Google that. I feel like that'll lead to something interesting if you Google that. Anyways, Thanagar Revisited, Hawkworld number 1 through 3, 1989. After the reality-altering events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Thanagarian Hawkman was reintroduced as a brand new hero in the 1989 limited series Hawkworld. This new, grittier take on Carter Hall explored his homeworld of Thanagar and its strict class system, as well as his troubled relationship with his father. He also met his new partner in the Thanagarian wingman, Shayera Thal. He sported a severe armored look in this incarnation, as well as featherless metal wings. I will say, if I was going to compare his old school design to the new design, the Hawkworld version, I'm a little torn, not gonna lie. I prefer his armored design, to be honest, because it's more practical, but I also feel like I prefer his older design because it's more colorful. It's just aesthetically pleasing, where this design to me looks kind of bland. But to each their own. I mean, I kind of wish it was a blend of both things. You could have this armored up metal Hawkman, but you could also have the coloration of the old school Hawkman, because then I think he would be aesthetically pleasing, but he also would look practical in a way. The Return of Hawkman, JSA number 16 through 25, 2002. When the Justice Society of America reforms in the 21st century, the original Hawkman returns once more, having been fused into a Hawk God with Carter Hall with a K years before. JSA member Hawkgirl, Kendra Saunders, found herself on war-torn Thanagar, where the High Priest were hoping to use her special connection to Carter Hall with a C to bring him back and stop the Conqueror, Onimar Sin, from taking over their world. Using Kendra's soul connection, they brought back Hawkman to this plane of existence. He rejoined the JSA in this storyline. Okay. Why is it that they needed Carter Hall with a C to save the day? Why couldn't they use the, Hawk God Avatar version? I don't know why that wouldn't have worked. Excuse me. Also, they talk about Hawkgirl Kendra Saunders being the one to help split Carter Hall and Cotter Hall into two beings, but Kendra Saunders would have also been fused with the Hawk God Avatar. That was a thing. That was a thing that they mentioned earlier on, that it was Carter Hall with a C, Carter Hall with a K, and Shayera all fused together as the Hawk God Avatar. And then when they unfused, Carter Hall with a C was reborn, and Shayera was reborn. But I guess she didn't fuse with them, or she unfused with them earlier or something? That's really weird, but I feel like that raises even more questions than I had before. Now, let's scroll down. First thing I want to say, the first thing that immediately catches my eye and I really like, the new 52 Hawkman has this metallic armored look to him, but it has the original colors. That's exactly what I was saying I would like when I saw his armored design here. I was like, I wish that they had the colors in it. And if you look at the Savage Hawkman armor with the colors, you did good. You did good. That's just exactly what I wanted. Another reason why I think New 52 Hawkman is the best Hawkman. Hawkman Rising, the Savage Hawkman number 1, 2011. In the post-Flashpoint universe, all previous Hawkmen seem to have been erased from history. A new Hawkman appears, going by the name of Carter Hall. He wears deadlier weapons on his gauntlets than previous versions, and is more savage in battle than the Hawkmen of the past. Although he is named Carter with a C, it is revealed that he is really Cotter with a K from Thanagar, although at first he seems to have no memory of his previous life before arriving on Earth. Eventually, his true alien nature would be revealed to him. Interestingly enough, we know that when Rebirth comes back around, they do bring back the old school Carter Hall with a C. But another interesting thing is that they don't list that in the storylines. They're like, nah, you can just stop here. Savage Hawkman's the best. And I agree. Savage Hawkman is the best. A matter of fact, Savage Hawkman doesn't really seem like he went away. You know what I mean? It seems like this New 52 Hawkman still happened. He just died in the fight against Despero or whatever. But I mean, he could come back. And to be honest, based on what I've read, I kind of hope that he does. Team affiliations. The Elite Hawkman Police Force, the Wingmen of Thanagar. The Justice Society of America. The All-Star Squadron. The Justice League of America. Justice League International. The Suicide Squad, which was not mentioned at all during this article. The Black Lantern Corps. And Justice League United, which I also don't think was mentioned during this article. Appearances and other media. In animation, he appeared in Justice League The New Frontier, Superman Batman Public Enemies, Justice League Dark, and DC Super Friends Joker's Playhouse. That one sounds like the weirdest one. In television, live action, he's appeared in Legends of the Superheroes. What is that? Is that one of those Super Friends shows? Because I know they had a lot of different names. Never heard of that, I don't think. Smallville, The Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. In animation on television, he's appeared in Superman, Aquaman, Hour of Adventure, Super Friends, Challenge of the Super Friends, All New Super Friends Hour, Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians, which is just another Super Friends show, Justice League Unlimited, The Batman, Batman Brave and the Bold, Young Justice, and Justice League Action. He's appeared in a lot of stuff. Like, for Hawkman to be what I would consider a lesser-known superhero, he appears in a ton of stuff. Video games. He has appeared in DC Universe Online, Scribblenauts Unmasked, a DC Comics adventure, Lego Batman 2, DC Superheroes, Lego Batman 3, Beyond Gotham, Lego DC Supervillains, and Injustice Gods Among Us. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you guys liked this video, make sure to smash that like button. Favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding 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 ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. Let me know which Hawkman was your favorite. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black the One and Only, logging out. And make sure you check out my video, These Superheroes Do Not Exist. It's about a project I'm doing with John Mason. And I should be having a new video about that project coming up soon. Peace, guys. Check it out.